Yeah, I think we can start. So welcome everybody. Thank you for coming in person. Thank you for connecting online. So let's start the defense procedure. I will briefly remind you the procedure itself first. First, we will have introduction of the jury members, the candidate, and the supervisor. Then we will give around 40 minutes for candidate to talk about the thesis. Then we will have Q&A sessions. We will have questions from jury members, and then we will have questions from general audience in Zoom or the audience present here in person. Then we will give a word to supervisor. Then we will ask the audience to leave and disconnect, and we will only discussing the outcomes and vote within the jury members. Then we will call all the people back and will announce the outcome to the candidate. Let me start with introduction of jury members. Myself is Dmitry Karateyev. I'm a professor at Skoltech in Center of Petroleum Science and Engineering. Also, I'm a founder and CEO of Digital Petroleum Company. I have over 20 years of experience in oil and gas technology, both in industry and academia. My research areas most recently include AI applications for optimization of subsurface technological processes for optimizing the oil and gas exploration, development, and production. I have more than 60 peer-reviewed publications, and my citation index is now higher than 22. So the next jury member we have is Professor Sergei Stanchets. Professor Sergei Stanchets is a senior research scientist at Schmidt Institute of Physics of the Earth of the Russian Academy of Science. He has more than 30 years of experience in oil and gas industry, in both academia and industry. His research interests span a wide range of topics in rock mechanics and petroleum engineering, including the dynamics of fracturing process during advanced geomechanical testing, laboratory studies of hydraulic fracturing, and verification of models applicable for enhanced oil recovery. Sergei authored more than 80 publications with high age index, which is around 30. Welcome, Sergei. Then we have Chendong Yuan. Chendong is online today. He holds PhD in oil and gas field development engineering through a combined master and PhD program from Southwest Petroleum University, China. Dr. Yuan has more than 10 years of experience in petroleum industry, worked both with industrial companies and academia. His area of interest includes thermal methods for EOR, high steam injection, in situ combustion, new technologies for in situ heavy oil upgrading, and so on. He has been granted 7 patents and authored over 130 scientific papers, with H index being more than 25. So welcome, Chendong. I think you have by far the most fancy background on your image. So welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Dimitri.
Our next jury member is Professor Walid Al-Shalabi from Khalifa University in United Arab Emirates. Dr. Al-Shalabi is a professor of petroleum engineering at Khalifa University of Science and Technology in Abu Dhabi. He has over 15 years of experience in petroleum industry. His research interests focused on enhanced and improved oil recovery techniques, geological gas storage, reservoir simulation, and characterization. Dr. Al-Shalabi has authored more than 140 scientific papers and conference proceedings, with H index being more than 12. Currently, Emad Al-Shalabi leads several research projects in the area of EOR and underground gas storage, founded by industrial companies as ADNOC and academic partners. Dr. Al-Shalabi, welcome. Good to see you again in our committees.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
Let's move forward. Next jury member is Professor Welingyan Xiao, if I pronounce correctly. Professor Xiao is a professor at Southwest Petroleum University in China. He is a visiting scientist, Earth Resources Laboratory in Massachusetts Institute of Technology in 2017 to 2018. He is the vice president and the founder of SPWLA Southwest China chapter, starting 2019. He is a leader of Youth Science and Technology Innovation Team of Unconventional Rock Physics. He has over 10 years of experience in petroleum industry. His area of interest includes petrophysics, methods for EOR, underground gas storage, reservoir characterization and stimulation, modeling of tight reservoirs, study of interfacial phenomena, wettability of soils, interfacial tension, also mineralogy and geochemistry. He has more than 600 citations and H index being higher than 13. So welcome, Professor Xiao.
Thank you very much.
So all jury members are introduced. Now let's move to the supervisor. Dr. Alexey Chistikov is an associate professor at Skoltech. He holds PhD in geology from Lomonosov Moscow State University. He worked on geological projects in Europe, Kazakhstan, South America, Middle East, and Siberia. His research interests comprise sequence stratigraphy, petrophysics, 3D geological modeling, GIS geological mapping, formation damage modeling, and more. Dr. Alexey Chistikov has authored over 40 scientific papers and conference proceedings. At Skoltech, he has developed 3 advanced courses in petrophysics, reservoir geology, and geomodeling. He works on projects related to geomechanics and underground gas storage. So, Professor Chistikov, also very welcome to be here. And last introduction, but of course not the least, I think the main one. So it's about our PhD candidate. Elizaveta Shvalyuk graduated with honors from Gubkin Russian State University of Oil and Gas with a master's degree in petrophysics and well logs interpretation in 2019. In 2019, she began her career as a petrophysicist in Rosneft. In 2019, Elizaveta started her work and research at Skoltech. She conducted laboratory studies, interpreted core analysis and well logs, and contributed to 3 industrial projects funded by petroleum companies while pursuing her PhD studies. She was contributing as a teaching assistant to the courses on reservoir rocks characterization and petrophysics and well logging interpretation. She has published 5 papers in peer-reviewed scientific journals and participated in 5 international conferences. So good luck, Elizaveta. We are done with the introduction. Now the floor is yours. Please, you have 40 minutes to tell us about your research.
Check. So I can start? Okay, thank you. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. I'm glad to have you here, listening my presentation. I am Elizaveta, and today I want to present you my thesis research, namely application of microstructural characteristics for rock typing aimed at delineation and evaluation of low-permeable clastic and complex carbonate reservoirs. So the agenda includes introduction part, selection of target reservoirs, development and implementation of new rock typing approaches for two formations, low permeable clastic one and a genetically modified formation, and also conclusions and novelty. So the general geomodeling workflow includes modeling on different scales, and one typical physical modeling includes both core and well logging data analysis, and it enables identification of key reservoir parameters included in formula for reserves calculation, namely net thickness of reservoir porosity, saturation. And besides these parameters, petaphysical modeling allows identification of lithological, mineralogical content, permeability, and identification of rock type distribution. All of these aspects, in turn, enable us providing further reliable geomodeling and hydrodynamic modeling. So any reservoir evaluation should initiate from rock typing procedure. And rock typing itself is a dividing of formation into clusters that can be described by individual set of equations describing relationships between key reservoir parameters used for reserves and production rate calculation. And rock typing derived from well logs is named electrotyping. And these all procedures are intended to increase the quality of resource calculation as well as to further identification of sweet spots for perforation and planning future well placement. The most commonly applied methods regarding clastic rocks formation for rock typing are flow zone units concept as well as Winland R35 classifier. These two classifiers are functions of porosity and permeability. The first one concept bases on the difference in grain and pore morphology, and this theoretically enable mapping the rock types with depositional settings. And the second classifier, which is R35 index, it reflects the pore radii, which are saturated with upon 35% of fluid. And these pores are potentially described as key to the filtration process. The mentioned above techniques also applied for carbonate rocks typing, but additionally, there are some other models developed, such as Lucia method, which includes rock fabric number as a classifier. This model bases on the sedimentological Dunham scheme. And also several researchers suggest classifiers which incorporates the effect of diagenesis in specific rocks. So, however, when we speak about rock typing, there are still several issues. And we might say that existing rock typing methods work reasonably well when we speak about formations with primary porosity. However, when we deal with more complex formations, such as low permeable or clastic or the genetically modified carbonate rocks, the rock typing becomes considerably challenging. And if we apply these standard approaches for complex formations rock typing, these can result in providing a low determination coefficients between key reservoir parameters, which are used for further spatial modeling. It may lead also to poor correspondence of core-derived rock types to depositional and diagenetic settings, which also influence our further geomodeling. And it may lead to low reproducibility of core-derived rock types to electrotypes. And this all may lead in reserves miscalculation and lead to in the reduction of economics and production efficiency. Sorry?
Да, я знаю.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So raising all about issues in foreground, I can say that my research is primarily aimed at development of new approaches for rock typing, engaging quantitative microstructural characteristics in order to enable efficient delineation and properties evaluation of two formations, low-permeable clastic and the genetically modified carbonate reservoir. And now I want to describe the target formation. And the first one, the clastic one, belongs to Vasiugan suit of the Upper Jurassic period. This formation is located among several oil fields of Shirotne Priobia. And the formation comprises siltstone in its base that are gradually replaced by sandstone in its top. And according to the international classification, these siltstones can be assigned to low permeable or tight rocks. So these siltstones have permeability lower than 1 millidarcy, and also they have apparently high reducible water saturation. And these factors affected their low resistivity. And further, earlier, this formation was considered as water-bearing one, and thus these intervals were excluded from production. However, the following up well tests showed considerable oil inflow from these layers. Thus, it motivated me to provide a new updated approach for rock typing of this formation. So the data which was available for study of clastic formation is represented by 32 core samples on which I provided routine and special core analysis in School Tech Lab. Also, I have 700 points, which covers particularly routine core analysis results. And also, I have several sets of well logs, which are represented by standard logs. The second target formation, which is the carbonate one, belongs to the Timan-Pechora Basin, and it's located in eastern part of the Nenes Autonomous Region. The reservoir is composed of carbonates of the Famennian stage of late Devonian period, and formation mainly comprises of limestones and dolostone, which are highly subjected to microfracturing, dissolution, and precipitation of secondary cement. And in contrast to conventional reservoirs, which has primary porosity, carbonates really frequently has secondary porosity, and the rock typing of such formations become really difficult, if possible at all. And the secondary porosity originates from the following procedures, which are leaching, fracturing, dolomitization, and so on. And even if it's possible for us to separate the clusters or rock types at porosity permeability plots, the resulted rock types really often contradict to the defined microstructure. So this also motivated me to provide an updated approach for efficient rock typing of the genetically modified carbonate rocks. For this study of carbonate rocks, I have 37 samples on which I provided routine and special core analysis. So in this research, I provided study of two formations, which are really different in general in microstructure. However, they have the same issue, which provided miscalculation of reserves earlier, which is rock typing. So, and now I want to come to results section, and I will proceed with study of carbonate, for clastic formation. Here I presented overall workflow for reliable rock typing of clastic formation studied in this research. And it comprises 3 blocks. The first one, which I described now, is about routine and special core analysis results and core-derived rock typing. The second block, which I described now, is about routine and special core analysis results and core-derived rock typing. And So I designed and implemented in this research the following program, which comprises both routine and special core analysis for microstructural study. So it comprised of optimal set of tests, which enables identification of both bulk properties and pore statistical characteristics. And also, it was mentioning that these all tests are presented by non-destructive techniques. Thus, these samples can be reused in further special core analysis, for example, in further relative permeability tests. And for this clastic formation, I proposed an alternative flow zone index, which is calculated as a function of porosity and irreducible water saturation. So standard classifiers, which I mentioned above, are the function of porosity and permeability. And these techniques, unfortunately, didn't provide a good match between the core-derived rock types with a microstructural study, which were defined by nuclear magnetic resonance and computed tomography. And also, I need to say that these techniques mainly mainly separated the formation onto siltstones and sandstones. But the alternative technique, which I propose, enables more detailed clustering of the formation, especially in low-permeable parts. And this alternative technique have enable identification of distinguishable microstructures. And it appeared to be the most appropriate for low-permeable layers. And also it is caused by the fact that these rocks are mainly differ in irreducible water saturations and permeability. So applying this alternative index, I derived 4 main rock types, which differ in microstructural characteristics derived from computed tomography, nuclear magnetic resonance, capillary pressure tests, and electrical properties. The general trend is the reservoir first one. And these rock types also can be characterized by unique microtexture observed using CT scans and lithological composition. Also in the study, for each unique rock type, I derived T2 cutoff value from NMR, which divide free and bound fluids in rock. And also I identified surface relaxivity, which aimed at further translation of T2 spectra into pore size distribution. Also, it was mentioning that the best match between pore size distribution was obtained from NMR and combined CT and the capillary pressure curves pore sizes. So on this plot of irreducible water versus resistivity index, we can observe the consistent decrease of saturation exponent from the fourth to the first rock type. This is explained mainly by creation of double electric layer that provides double conductivity, and it is caused by the increase of more fine fraction represented by silts and pelitic grains. And if we apply one equation, or in other words, one saturation exponent for all rock type, it may lead in underestimation of reserves in the part of first and second rock types, which are siltstone one, and overestimation of reserves in the fourth and third rock type. So the developed rock typing was then applied on extended set of core, and the boundary values of FZ didn't significantly change. So it indicates the validation of this index, and also I derived reliable equations for resource calculation for each rock type. And this enabled to provide petaphysically valid and statistically valid rock types. And these regressions can be then employed in well logs interpretation. So now I want to proceed with providing rock typing using well logs. And the this part includes these two blocks from the overall workflow, which includes well-log data interpretation and electrotyping, and machine learning as a supportive tool for extension of electrotypes. And particularly, there are several the following steps. So first, this is synthesis of missed data. Next, this is calculation of lithological and mineralogical content. Next, it's calculation of permeability using alternative technique and obtaining alternative flow zone index. Then I provide electrotyping itself and enhance it using machine learning. And the last step is application of alternative techniques for oil saturation calculation and fluid typing itself. So the first step, synthesis of missing data. Particularly, I synthesized sonic log, which was most frequently absent among wells of these oil fields. And I reconstructed it as a multilinear, using multilinear regression. So it was a function of gamma ray density and neutron, or just gamma ray and density. It was mentioning that adding additional logs, it's like adding additional variable in the system of equations of petrophysical modeling. So applying this synthesis, I enable increasing the reliability of reservoir properties calculation. And next, I provided mineralogical content calculation as well as porosity calculation. So all of this modeling was calibrated on X-ray diffraction data as well as mud logs. And in general, the studied formation represented by clay minerals, quartz, potassium feldspars, as well as carbonate inclusions. And I defined 5 lithotypes represented by sandstone, dense rocks, shaly, siltstone, and coals. Afterwards, I provided calculation of permeability. And here in this study, I also applied multilinear regressions, and permeability was calculated as a function of normalized microresistivity, volume of clays, and relative parameter of spontaneous potential. Application of this function enabled to increase high determination coefficient between core-derived permeability and the log-derived. And specifically, it became possible since these parameters also depend on the same properties as permeability, and particularly it depends on tortuosity and effective flow path of fluid. So, last step that here before electrotyping, I calculated reducible water saturation from cortex and provided electrotyping. And here we can see on the last slide that we obtained really good match, and it wasn't possible if I want to maintain the same classification principle was on core rock typing and well logs typing, rock typing. And afterwards, I decided to tune and apply several machine learning algorithms in order to provide further extension of this electrotyping in interpreted wells, which are a great number actually among these fields. And the best result, the highest metrics were shown by support vector machine algorithm, and thus it can be recommended for further application among these well fields. And after electrotyping, I used different methods for assessment of oil saturation, namely RT, Waxman-Smith, and dual water. These techniques mainly differ in a type of rocks. Particularly, models other than RT incorporate the effect of clay cement and its properties, as well as incorporate the influence of cation exchange capacity of rocks. And after providing comparison of the results of these techniques, I can say that the best match between well tests and photos of core in full-size core in ultraviolet was obtained with oil saturation calculation based on Waxman-Smith model and Archie. And for the first and second rock type, which are low resistivity one, the Waxman-Smith shows the best fit, whereas for the third and fourth rock types, which are represented by clean sandstones mainly, the simple Archie model gives the best fit. And at the end, I can say that this updated electrotyping, as well as application of alternative techniques of saturation calculation, enabled to increase the total potential productive thickness over the formation by 4 times and liner hydrocarbon reserve by 3 times. So we can see here a more positive assessment of geological reserves. So there's all for clastic formation rock typing. Now I proceed with carbonate formation, the second one. And I also designed and implemented experimental program tests, including both routine and special core analysis, and enabled further efficient description of microstructure of the rock and its specific. And I applied methods, techniques, which were mentioned in the foreground. So they are FZI indexes, Lucia indexes. And unfortunately now none of these techniques showed sufficient results in terms of 2 conditions. The first one is obtaining high correlation coefficient between key reservoir properties, and the second one, it is a consistency of microstructure derived from special core analysis within each identified rock type. And since there are not sufficient results, I was motivated to provide and develop an alternative technique. So I named this index KFS after the entities permeability, porosity, and saturation. And this index includes structural coefficient and the ratio of free fluid to reducible water. And these parameters reflects the contribution of secondary porosity and primary porosity to the final filtration capacity of the rock. I also provided a theoretical table which indicates the combination of this index and explains it from sedimentological, microstructural, and the genetic aspects. And using this alternative index in the current formation, I derived 4 main rock types, which are characterized by specific microstructure and lithology also. And you can see here, like the second one and third one have subgroups, and they mainly differ in the content of dolomite. However, they have the same time of pores and filtration, and thus they can still be assigned at the same rock types. And moreover, this alternative index enables us identification of regressions between key reservoir parameters with relatively high determination coefficient. And since these regressions are high of importance for geological modeling and assessing rate production, so this is really significant. And as I said, these rock types have specific microstructural characteristics within each rock type. And using CT scan, we can observe and explain property trends between defined rock types. And for example, the permeability variation within each defined rock type associated with 2 major diagenetic processes. The first one is dissolution, and the second is dolomite cementation. And these affect porous network connectivity, which is shown in the next slide. And also, it needs to say that the significant role here goes still for sedimentological settings. And for example, if we observe the development of dissolution porosity, which may increase permeability, we still may have the high irreducible water, which may be conditioned by the high content of micrite. NMR-derived pore size distribution also uniquely characterize each rock type, and we can observe the increase of pore sizes with the increase of dissolution and the decrease of pore sizes with the increase of dolomite content. So NMR also validates their proposed index for rock typing. And now I discussed all the steps of my integrated study and rock typing provided for two formations. And I want to cover the main conclusions. So the first one is that this study provides systemized overview of the existing rock typing approaches for complex formations, and also it includes overview and efficiency analysis of modern high-resolution microstructure studies. Also in this research, I suggest experimental programs which are specifically designed for complex clastic and carbonate formations, and they enabled real efficient rock typing and their characterization of rock types. And also I provided two alternative index for rock typing of this formation, and they really closely correspond to their identified microstructure and specific of this formation. And also I provided good regressions between key reservoir parameters for characterizing of this formation. Also, I proposed alternative technique for permeability calculation as a multivariate function of several independent blocks. Also, I suggest alternative translation of core-derived rock types to electrotypes. Also, I enhance this procedure with machine learning. And finally, in this research, I provided alternative techniques for saturation evaluation for the first time for this formation, for this low-permeable clastic formation. And it all enables to make more positive prognosis of geological resource calculation. So the results of my study are published in several peer-reviewed journals, and also I presented them in several international conferences. So for now, this is all, and I'm very glad to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Elizaveta. Very good talk. We are now shifting to the next stage, which is questions from the respected jury members. So I suggest we go the following way. So I will call each jury member separately. So he could ask the questions with regard to presentation and the thesis itself. And then I will ask all of the members separately whether they are satisfied with the changes that Elizaveta made in the thesis after we submitted our reviews. So let's start with the questions from the jury. I suggest we take a reverse order with respect to what was in the introduction. So I would ask Professor Xiao. Professor Xiao, if you have questions to Elizaveta, please go ahead.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah,
it's my pleasure to attend the Dr. Elizaveta defense. I have no questions now. Before I replied my question, and Dr. Elizaveta did a very nice response to my questions. So I think she did a very nice work, and at the same time, she also achieved fruitful results. I support her PhD defense. Congratulations, doctor. Yeah, thank you.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So am I right that you are fully satisfied with all the revisions which Elizaveta made in her text after your questions in the review? Yeah? Okay, and no more questions as of now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move forward. Professor Al-Shalabi, if you have some questions to Elizaveta, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you for your involvement and excellent presentation, Elizaveta. It's very clear. I like the flow through the slides today and your voice tone. Everything was too clear to me and was systematic, covering the whole aspects, novelty, problems, and then workflows, methodology, going through the conclusions. Now, a couple of things I raised during the comments on the report. You addressed, I believe, them in an adequate way, though there are some few touches that I can highlight again in here. And one of those I wish you have reflected on your presentation, which is just the future work that I already highlighted in the thesis. You know, I mean, research is always about continuation. There is no way you can perfect everything in those 4 years. And this really will open the path for the new students who will take this journey forward. They will read your dissertation, including the future work. Now, I'm not sure within the Sculptic dissertation template, is there any certain style for including the future work? I saw that you were including a section in every chapter that is acceptable, though the most really universal way is just to include it with the conclusion chapter. So the final chapter, you call it like conclusions and the future work, and there you put another segment and you compile everything together.
Okay, could you please comment, Elizaveta, on the future work and potential changes?
Yeah, okay. So thank you very much for your comments. Actually, yeah, it's really increased the quality of my work, I think. Yes, because the recommendations are really significant in this. Yes, I consider that maybe, yeah, combining it could be good. So, and now you want me to comment on these recommendations, yeah?
No, that is fine. As soon as you're aware and you can check the better way of compiling them, that is fair enough. But just one of the comments that I raised, probably I need to start now with the follow-up on the way you addressed my earlier comments, is on presenting the poro-perm relations using liquid permeability and saturation porosity, which we believe they're more representative than using the gas permeability and the helium porosity. You commented that you agree. We don't have, I did not have the data by the time of the study. But again, this is one of the great venues where this you can take it in the future work to look further into this.
Like incorporated as a recommendation. Yeah, a good
Absolutely.
point.
Excellent. Like my other comment or question, how universal you think those novel reservoir rock typing approaches that you came up with? Again, it's great to see those, and again, it's a great contribution digesting all such informations for cores and logs and in a Clastic and complex carbonates is really a huge work. But my question to you now, how universal you think your models are? So if I get you, for example, another set of carbonate formations, how confident the rock typing equations for the flow zone indicators you came up with well applicable there. And the same thing for the clay clastic formation.
Thank you. This is really good questions. About the applicability of these indexes, I would suggest that first, we need to understand what specific we have in our formation and what the ranges of the key reservoir parameters, so the permeability, porosity, and reducible water saturation. Considering the carbonate rock typing here, this index, actually, I don't have a really highly permeable rocks. And yes, I have a dissolution which increases this permeability, but still, I suggest that maybe in high fractured rocks, this rock typing index might be not such sensitive. Also, we can say like a complication here when we apply to tight dolomites, for example. Why? Because it might be really difficult with capillary pressure tests to reach this final reducible water saturation. And yeah, and that's why if we consider it as application for other carbonate formations, yes, we need to take into account this specific, of course, and yeah, mainly they are applicable for dissolution when our rocks subject to dissolution and dolomite precipitations. And regarding the second index, which is designed for clastic rocks, I need to comment that we also need to understand the specific of the formation. And here, this index as a standard index, it suggested the mapping between core-derived rock types to depositional settings. That means that when we come to the system with diagenesis, it might work not reasonably good. And it's also shown in my work, yes, because I applied this alternative flow zone index to carbonate formation, and it just allowed us to separate classes on clusters, but not with good regressions. Yeah. Am I answered comprehensively or still?
Very good, Elizaveta. So again, those kind of things you can include in the future work. Again, we don't expect you in this PhD journey to answer every single problem, but your contributions undoubtedly remarkable. Maybe one to two more comments. So remember I said it would be nice to talk about like facies associations, what they call static reservoir rock types, that they're similar to petrophysical groups, and then dynamic reservoir rock types where you can get the scales in there. And then you said those out of the scope, but I'm only focusing on you know, the static reservoir rock typing, if I'm not mistaken. So again, I'm not really talking about applying them. All what I'm saying, as part of your literature review, it would be good to show that the different definitions, at least, that there exist in the research community, right? And how different they are. So you can put those in a couple of lines, or maybe a small table to highlight those and the differences between those. So this is another minor comment.
Okay, may I comment also here a little bit?
Please.
Yeah, please go
Yeah,
ahead.
I agree. Yes, maybe extension might be good, but like, you know, like I thought, like I can't cover all the topics in my research. Yes, but I agree. This is significant because it's always doubtful about what now people say, what type of rock type, if it flow one, yes, or considering faces. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Excellent. So the last comment I have from my side is on the dissertation title. I highlighted that. Don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong in the current title. It looks attractive and exciting enough. But all what I'm saying, since you highlighted several places in your dissertation to describe those clastic rocks as not only low permeability, but every time you mentioned low resistivity. So it might worth including and stressing on the low resistivity in the title. Now, if you think that will make it longer, which is indeed correctly, I liked a sentence that you put in your last slide in your conclusion, and you said those, proposed novel approaches for reservoir rock typing helped in addressing complex clastic and carbonate formations. So you might need again to label both of them as complex, and this will trigger the curiosity of the reader, and then they go there and they see what complex aspect you highlighted. Again, I don't know how easy is reflecting that on the dissertation title at this stage. If the process is really hectic and it's time consuming, then drop it. It's just a minor comment.
Professor Al-Shalabi, we will discuss those options after all the Q&A sessions and in a like separate room. Okay.
Excellent. So again, I really need to commend you on such a great work, Elizaveta, and that even reflects the dedication of your supervisor, Professor Alexi, towards this work. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Al-Shalabi. Right now, we are moving to the next jury member, Professor Yuan. If you have questions to Elizaveta, please.
Hello, hello everyone. Dimitri, now it's my turn, right?
Right.
Okay. Thank you. So first, thank you for the very excellent presentation. Actually, you did very, in a clear way how you show your work. So it's very good work. Thank you very much. And from my point, for now I don't have more questions because I checked all the comments you addressed in your response. You addressed them all accordingly and in a good way. And I like it how you formulate, especially the novelty and the relevance in the chapter 5 in the new way. So now it looks like much clearer for me. So furthermore, I don't have any more questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. That was very clear. We are moving forward. Professor Stanchitz, if you have questions, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Elizaveta. Thank you very much for your very nice presentation. I like your study, and actually one of the reasons why I like your study is that you combined both scales. You combined laboratory scale study and the field scale, and you demonstrated how important to have both. Because I know that some people think that only well logging is enough and laboratory study not. And concerning my first question is related, maybe a little bit technical, but related to the techniques that you applied in laboratory study. You mentioned X-ray study and NMR study you applied. And of course, techniques have some limitations. So like everybody knows that for X-ray, there is a voxel size, is a minimal size that you can analyze on laboratory scale. How significant are those limitations for your final classification of the rock? What do you think?
Sergey, thank you very much for your questions. May I come to the presentation, Elena? This is a backup slides. You can scroll and I will say where to stay. Maybe a little more. Okay, a little bit up. Maybe 85 is okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So regarding NMR, to describe. Okay. So this method considers as comprehensively regarding their pore network characterization, and it's sometimes considered and also as advantages of this method. The first one, that it's not, or for example, calcite inclusions, the spectra will shift, and we need for this to support it with, for example, CT scan to understand what causes the shifting. So we need to understand that it's not a comprehensive method for analysis of pore structure and the rock itself. Also, NMR is not direct method for studying porous networks. It still measures the relaxation of protons. Yes, it's not gives us direct answer on what pore size we have, and thus we need to calibrate it to other tests. So, and in my study, thus I apply not only NMR but also computer tomography and centrifuging. But these methods also have their limitation in terms of resolution first, and in terms of their detailization of steps applied. And considering CT, it has really advantages. So a good list of advantages, starting from that we can understand without destruction of samples the structure. There's what kind of the genesis procedure processes we have, and we can observe I provided tests on the samples 30 by 30 millimeters in size, and measuring CT scan on such samples enable us to identify only pores in diameter greater than 2 microns, so 5. So this is pretty not sensitive. But in order to cover more pore sizes, I applied also centrifuging, which covers more ranges of pores. And I actually combined these techniques, and next I calibrated NMR. So these all limitations, which I described, actually encountered in my experimental program, yes, to obtain more comprehensive thing. And when we speak about limitation and when we want to design a laboratory program, we need always to remember what kind of resolution it have and what kind of samples measured. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Elizaveta. I completely agree. And it's actually, I'm really glad that you told about this collaboration, that it's better to compare different techniques and especially different scales. But in this case, I have a second question related to the first one. You mentioned that you applied alternative model of permeability analysis based on well logging. But have you tested, have you made a comparison verification of your permeability analysis based on your alternative method and based on laboratory study, based on the sample measurements of directly either gas or fluid permeability in the sample, and in comparison with the standard technique? How significant is improvement of introducing this alternative technique?
Okay, yes, thank you very much. First of all, I need to say that permeability based on well logs are derived usually from porosity log. And this is kind of looping here, and we have here uncertainty. Yes, and that's the first reason why I decided to try independent logs, which are also depends on the similar characteristics. So, and yes, of course, actually, the technique of multilinear regressions, when we have a function of not one variable but several, yeah, actually, I as a y-axis, I have the core measurements, yes, and on as x-axis we have these variables, and that's function are actually calibrated on the core derived permeability. And yes, on the layout, if we Okay. Oh no. Okay, I just, okay, there are a layout which shows on the reference wells that we have a good fit of this permeability to core-derived permeability. Yeah, maybe some other clarifications, maybe I'll...
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I completely satisfied with your answers, and I can tell you that I also satisfied with all your corrections introduced to your thesis. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Professor Stanchec. I hope everybody still can hear us and see us. We had some issue with electricity here. Yeah, I think it's still sharing. So now it's my turn. First of all, the corrections you have made to the text and edits with respect to my comments are absolutely good to me. So I'm okay with it. Over this presentation, I just have actually already 3 questions, because one of my questions was already asked by Professor Al-Shalabi. The minor ones, if you can come to the slide 27, please.
Elena, need your help? '27, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You have mentioned the distribution of yeah, you have mentioned that distribution of the types along the axis are associated for the, if I'm not mistaken, 3rd and 4th type or 4th are mainly associated with the presence of the electric double layer, correct?
The first one and the second one, which
The
has the
first and the
lower,
second.
yes.
How do you know that this electric double layer is actually there and that this is the main influencing factor?
Okay. Regarding the general low resistivity, which are commonly met in other formations, usually it is caused by pyrite inclusions, insignificant pyrite inclusions, more than, I guess, 3%. Okay. And also it can be related to high clay volume. However, here, if we consider the X-ray diffraction, so sorry, I don't remember if I have in backup the distribution of clay minerals in the backup slides, but I have it in thesis certainly.
Okay.
So these types of rock are characterized up to 35% of clays, and it means that we can describe this formation as not kind of clayly one. And that means that we prevailing, we have the silt fraction, and the silt fraction is not a clay one. And also we don't have here a high mineralization, which also can provide us a low resistivity. The mineralization of the formation water here is about 40 grams per liter. So it's not high. And so the last thing which we can consider from actually microstructural studies like capillary pressure tests and NMR. So the only reason which is leave here is irreducible at saturation, but it correlates not only with clay mineral, but also a silt fraction.
Okay, what you are saying is like summarization in the sense of empirical knowledge on where this double layer could actually influence the okay.
And yes, come back to the double electric layer. Yes, of course, it's actually reducible water in most cases creates these double electric layers, and it double conductance.
Okay, and the fact of the presence of this double electric layer is that it's actually quite hard to measure physically the presence of double electric layer elsewhere. So not only on the boundary of water and a mineral, but also in a boundary between 2 liquids and with various. This fact is from some literature, yes, that for these types of
But we in dielectric, and you're certainly right. We cannot directly measure.
Okay, so slide 32, please. You have mentioned that you are reconstructing the acoustic logs, correct here?
Yes.
So those two formulas, the formulas for regression, basically, where these coefficients came from?
Actually, it's also empirical one.
Empirical
So,
one,
yes.
so from some literature?
No, this is just for this formation. So I have actually a quite good number of wells, more than I showed here.
So you tuned those numbers yourself?
Yes, yes,
okay.
sure.
Okay, got it. To the wells in which the actual acoustic logs were present?
Yes, I have tests and training.
Okay, now I see. Good. And the last one, slide 53, if we can go there. It was partially covered already by Sergey, but I have a little bit more philosophical and general question. Whenever you are talking about pore size distribution, measured either from micro-CT, centrifuge, or NMR, there is always a huge uncertainty with respect to what actually this curve is representing. Is it like really pores? Is it like really throats? Or is it like some balancing between pores and throats? Or it's just some derivative of the fluids, fluid bulb sizes occupying various types of pore? So talking NMR distribution, what have you used to kind of inverse NMR measurements to the pore size distribution? And have you accounted somehow the uncertainty which could be associated with this variations in inversion and in initial measurements?
May somehow separate your questions?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the first one is how I translate it, yes?
Yeah.
And the second one, how we can account for some effects of
uncertainties, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So particularly considering Clastic rock, I combined first their centrifuging derived pore size distribution with computer tomography one, since they covered greater range of pores, and I just made a kind of calibration. So this is calibration coefficient is surface relaxivity. It's usually and it was derived for each rock type. In this, for carbonate rocks, also to derive pore size distribution, I provided the same technique. The only one thing is that I, when I recalculated pore sizes from capillary pressure curves, I used also a calibration coefficient. Why? Because carbonate rocks are not always hydrophilic. Yes, and I applied from this Laplace equation. If you might know, this is a connection about pressure, and so I applied also a correlation coefficient, and I first calibrated pressure capillary test-derived curves on CT scan. So I just joined their modes. And next, I also calibrated the NMR spectra. And I agree with you about the point that these methods physically measure something different for capillarimetric tests like MICP or centrifuging tests. Yes, there is a pore throats. Yes, sure. This is not just pore bodies. And for CT scan and NMR, we measure pore bodies. However, from my literature research, I didn't find out how their practitioners deal with it. They are still just calibrate. This is just in terms of calibration and empirical studies. So, since it worked out, I guess that, yes, this is limitation, but it worked out.
So I got like 90% of your answer, but what have you used as initial signal from NMR? It's T2 distribution, or?
Yes, T2 distribution,
okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm done. So no more questions from my side. I'm satisfied with the changes made in the thesis. Colleagues from jury, any other questions? Please let me know.
I'm good, thank you.
So, okay. Colleagues are silent. We need to move to the questions from the audience. Yelena, do we have somebody questioning from the, how it's called, Zoom?
No, not at the moment, but maybe I shall give one more call.
Yeah, let's give a couple of minutes to the audience. If you have some questions, please type it to the Zoom or raise your hand.
Maybe we have questions from audience here as well.
Any questions from audience here? No, the audience here is okay. 1 minute for the Zoom questions, then maybe somebody will be brave enough to type something.
In the chat, there is one question at least.
That's Yelena.
Oh, yeah.
Calling people to ask.
Okay, I don't see that many audience members outside of the jury, so and I can see no questions so far.
Okay, thank you very much then. Right now you may want to take a seat and we give a word to the supervisor. So Alexei, if you have something to say.
I can say.
Whatever.
It's a great pleasure to replace Elizaveta on this stage and to tell a few words about her from my point of view. We are familiar 4 years. It's a very big journey, and it was really a fruitful and enjoyable journey together. I have to say she's extremely decent person, uncompromising scientist, extremely hardworking, very much determined to achieving of scientific goals. And she contributed to several courses during all these years, and she was supporting me in my education activities, and we published quite a few articles together. And from my point of view, I appreciate very much her contribution to Clastic science, and I think she is one of the best PhD researchers in this university and in this country. And she is absolutely decent person and uncompromising scientist, and the way she was answering very difficult sometimes question just confirmed this. And I was very much proud to supervise her, and I hope her research will be supported. Thank you very much, Elizaveta, for beautiful work and beautiful contribution to research and education of Clastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right now, we need to ask audience, except of jury members, to leave. Elizaveta and Alexei, please also leave for a moment. So we are back to the session. Recording reinitiated. Okay. So, Elizaveta, brilliant work. Congratulations. Now you are not just Elizaveta, but Dr. Elizaveta. So congratulations. You have awarded with the Clastic PhD. The thesis is accepted as is. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, actually, I want to be more concise. First of all, I want to thank Clastic for this beautiful opportunity. Yes, it was challenging for sure, but yes, it was also also wonderful time. Thank you very much, Clastic. I also want to say a big thanks to jury members. You really contributed to my thesis. It became much more better. It has better quality. Yes, thank you very much. First, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to my supervisor, Professor Alexei Chestikov, for his support, mentorship, and motivation. His knowledge and prospect thinking enhanced the results of my research. I would also like to thank Professor Mikhail Spasenych and Dr. Natalia Bogdanovich for their scientific guidance for these 4 years. I'm also very grateful to Dr. Aliya Mohamedinova for her help with mastering NMR studies, as well as Alexander Borisov and Anton Burukhin for their mentorship and assistance in the laboratory experiments. I want also acknowledge my first teachers in petrophysics. They are Professor Kazimir Kovalenko, Vladimir Kolesov, and Alexander Kolomitsov. Last but not least, I would like to express my deepest thanks to my mother, Tatiana, Father Victor, sorry, Sister Olga, and my dearest friends, Tanya and Anne, for their unconditional love and understanding. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
So congratulations again. That was very, very touching. Congratulations.